Welcome back to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. I am super excited today to have Mr. Christos Privalis. He is a dynamic professional speaker on customer experience out of South Glastonbury, Connecticut. He's recently been introduced to the insurance space, which I'm so glad that he was, because it really seems like he's jumped in both feet and really just kind of gotten to know some of the real powerhouses of our industry. He's recently spoke at the Paradiso Mastermind Group, the Powers and Producers in Paradise Group with David Carruthers, and he's really has an interesting background, which I can't wait to get into. And along the way, he started more so out of a hobby. Christos Speaks in 2017 has kind of grinded his way through today, where from the outside looking in, it looks like it's really kind of taking off for him. So I can't wait to hear more about his journey. So Christos, welcome to the show.
Nice. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, just like you said, I started a few years back as a hobby. I really enjoy talking about customer experience and customer service. I created a top level customer service class that I was doing a few years back for an arm of the Department of Labor here in Connecticut, as to just doing a class for people that recently came out of being incarcerated, people that were stay-at-home parents that were really recently going back into the workforce, people that just needed some top-level customer service training. So I started it like that. But while I worked at Disney, I wrote down all my notes, everything that I learned. Then I said, let me make a deep dive customer experience class. And it took me about 18 months to actually create it, with all my notes that I had written in chicken scratch. And then I started doing it, and was getting some great reviews from it. And then one day, someone said, "Hey, can you come and do it for our company?" I said, "Well, I'm working," and they said, "Well, we'll pay you." And I was like, "Oh, well, let me see if my brother will let me out of work." And it slowly started like that, really part time, you know, to part time to now, full time. And it's
Yeah.
been just uh, a great journey for
Yeah,
sure.
well, let's back up a little bit because you've had kind of an interesting employment background that brought you up to this point, which you spent some nearly 6 years at Walt Disney, and
Mhm.
is that really where you learned a lot of the customer experience piece? Did you go to, is it a Disney University that you attended, or what was that?
Yes.
Okay.
So Disney has an internal education arm called Disney University for their employees, and the Disney Institute for their external companies. And I really learned how to refine everything there. I was taught years back from my family, from my parents. I remember my mom my mom and dad have three kids. They're three boys. And I remember my mom saying, "We have four children. We don't have three." And I said, "Who's the fourth?" And she goes, "Our restaurant and our customers. Those are our fourth child, and we have to take care of them like that." And I remember her saying that. And then and I never thought anything of
Right.
that. So she ingrained that in me. And then, I would see the way she would just talk with our customers and take care of them. And then I was too young to understand. And then uh, I started to as I was growing older. And then when I went to Disney, I really saw like that on a bigger picture. But the biggest thing I was taught at Disney was that they don't sell anything but one thing, and they sell an emotion.
Yeah.
They sell an emotion that people desire. They sell the most desired human emotion there is, which is happiness.
Yeah.
And every single business out there sells something different. They think they sell one thing, but they actually sell something else. So I thought that we sold, hotel rooms and theme park tickets and merchandise. And an executive came in to my restaurant one day at Disney and said, "Christos, what do you sell?" Which is the reason that I started this class. And I go, "Well, yeah, we sell theme park tickets. We sell," and he's like, "That's not what we sell." And I was a little bit confused. I was like, I'm like, what do we sell? Uh, and he said, we sell the most desired human emotion there is. And when you know and understand what you sell, your whole perspective on your business changes. And when you know and understand what you actually sell, your job is to evoke the emotion you want your client to feel.
Yeah.
And it made me just go, huh. So he said, your job is not to sell theme park tickets and hotel rooms and flatbread pizzas. Your job is to sell happiness. So when my mindset was like that, I just changed the way I operated their business units.
Yeah. Which is really interesting because if you asked most of us in the insurance space what we sell, we would probably look at you funny and say we sell insurance, obviously. Which, and again, just following you a little bit, which made me think, what do we really sell then? Well, we sell security and
Yes,
comfort, and
absolutely.
that we are going to take care of these things for you. We have your property, your family, your business. We have that covered, so you don't have to worry about it. Um, so it's really, I mean, I've already learned from you, and I haven't taken your course yet, but just as
Oh,
a different
thank you.
way of thinking. So talk also a little bit about your family pizzeria and your methods of taking care of the customer there.
So, we just celebrated 29 years this past May. My brother is in charge of our restaurant. His name is Dimitri. And I was lucky enough after I left Disney to join them, to rejoin and to be able to focus on a few different things. Um, my brother is our marketing person, our operations person, our technical person. He basically does everything. He's a classically trained chef, along with our amazing management team and my parents as well. So I took over some of the admin stuff, and I was really excited to take over like our community relations and customer relations type stuff. I really enjoy talking. I talk a lot. Sometimes it's not the best thing, but it is what it is. And I just really enjoyed reaching out to different parts of our community. And my brother allowed me to be able to do that while he took care of the operation because I couldn't, we couldn't really focus a lot on our customers and our town and our community without my brother being able to handle everything inside the place. So my brother would say, you have free reign, do whatever you feel is necessary. And I said, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
So we would just we would be very proactive on things that were going on in the community. We would say, oh, listen, if you're doing this, we'd love to donate something.
yeah,
If anything that was going on, we just wanted to be, instead of being reactive, we want to be proactive. Oh, you're doing this and you're volunteering your time. Well, if you're volunteering your time, we'd love to feed the volunteers and you know, and from every perspective. And it ended up really having a huge impact, along with just our menu. My brother changed our menu dramatically. He didn't change our recipes. He added quite a few things. Uh, our management team also, like, we added just a whole bunch of eclectic pizzas, very different things, and we really tried to spend some time with our employees as well to make them understand that we truly care for them. We would really do anything for them, and for them to really take care of our customers, and in return our customers just take care of us. So that was our goal.
one of the proactive things you did at the pizzeria that I heard you talk about before was, and maybe you did this multiple times, but on one occasion, one of your customers had a death in the family, and you called a member of the family and asked how many people were going to be at
Mm.
a reception or a gathering at the family home after that, and you got an estimate of the number of people are going to be there, and then just sent over how many pizzas.
Sure, that's something that we unfortunately we can't catch everything that goes on. So
Right.
whatever we do catch, if somebody were that passed away, we would reach out to their family and we would be like, hey, listen, I would love to, my family and I would love to take care of the food for the day, just so just regardless of how many people are coming, just so you can concentrate on, what you need to concentrate on. And um, I say this in my class that when you get there and that person who lost their loved one, that hug that you receive from that person for feeding all their people, um, I mean, that's everything, Brad. That means everything in this world. Because and I never really knew the impact we had on people. I mean, our business increased quite a bit in the years that my brother ran our restaurant, and then after when I joined, it definitely increased. But I really realized the impact we had on them when it happened to us. 15 months ago, my dad passed away, and
Mm.
we had to close our restaurant for about you know 10 days or so. And what our customers and our community and our friends did, they filled our house with food and drinks and gifts. And it was the first time that I thought, is this how they feel?
Yeah.
And I never knew what a bringing X amount of food and just bringing it to you, what impact it had. Because
Yeah.
when we do it, I was like, man, I wish I could do more.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeding 30 people, I wish we could do more. But then when we received that on our end, I'm like, that meant so much. Just bringing us cold cuts and bread and just food. I was like, wow. I'm like, this is how they feel,
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, when you have a business, your customers are your everything. You're everything. Without them, for us, we'll have a space with restaurant equipment and a phone that doesn't ring. So touch your customers on a level that your competition has no understanding of it.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it, is that, and for you to have an impact on your community as a pizzeria speaks volumes to, to what you guys have done, and that you did make a huge difference. And then to have that when you were in need, to have that returned, I
Oof.
mean,
Eh,
that's as heartwarming as it gets, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it hard to put that into words.
There is, I'm never speechless for I never am. Like, I always have something to say, and I couldn't. I had nothing to say. I couldn't express myself to all of our customers and all of our friends that did things for, like, I really couldn't. I was like, wow. And we needed it. I know I needed it. I needed to, um, especially my mom. She told me, "Is like, listen, everything's gonna be okay." Like, I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was an amazing feeling to
Yeah.
receive. It really was,
What goes
and I'm
around
just
comes
so
around.
happy that we are in our little town that took care
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, let's transition a little bit into the evolution of your speaking career here. So,
Okay.
um, you are at this time, I guess, back at the pizzeria, and you said basically you were doing it as a hobby. So how does it evolve? How does the speaking journey evolve from there?
Oh, I was doing it as I was working at the restaurant. I was doing it for some places, and some places would, not happily accept. They're like, well, we don't, and I'd be like, listen, I just would love to do this for free. And they're like, no, we're all set. We don't need, any training and stuff. I said, sure, no problem. I'm like, I wouldn't lose anything. I wasn't doing it to gain. I just doing it because I learned a lot from my parents, my
Mhm.
brothers, our management team, running our family business, and then working at Disney. So I learned so much from everyone, and that I was just put it all together in one package, so to say. And then the people that did really take me on were like, "This is, I think you have something here. I think you have a message." And I was like, I do. I don't know. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I'm the one that created it, so
Yeah.
sure, it's a biased opinion, but I didn't know that it really had an impact until some people just really started saying some heartfelt words.
Yeah.
Some people even said to me, "You teach more than just customer experience. You teach other things," and that's when I was like, I do. And then from there it just slowly evolved, and
Yeah.
um, I started doing it just, in Connecticut, where I live. And then uh, maybe 9, 10 months ago, I started doing it to some places in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And then about 3 months ago, I felt like someone just turned on a light switch, and I started traveling the country, uh, and just going to multiple states, and a month, and which has been great. And then on top of that, then I meet these powerhouses like Chris Paradiso
Yeah.
and David Carruthers, that they're like, hey, can you come to our events?
Yeah.
And then these guys just put jet fuel just on my trajectory.
Yeah.
They've been so amazing to me, and through them I meet people like you, and
Yeah.
now I'm on your podcast. So it has been like absolutely amazing.
So let's talk about your course,
Okay.
customer experience, and what you speak about.
So the course has to do with human connection, right?
Yeah.
How do we connect with people, whether it's your employee, whether it's your customer, whether it's your family member? The biggest part of it is just connecting, and the definition of human connection is, it's an energy, and that energy is formed when between people, when they feel seen, when they feel heard, when they feel valued, and when they feel understood. And when those things happen, a bond happens with people, a connection happens with them. Um, and that's the basis of the whole class. Then I break it down to, there's a piece of the class that has to do with emotion, and how our emotions work. I thought I knew how our emotions worked. And then when I learned really about them, I was like, wow, I didn't really know how they worked. Um, I piece of my class has to do with self-awareness, and
Mhm.
this one's always fun when I do in classes, because I always ask, and sometimes there's just leaders in the class, sometimes there's just CEOs in the class, and I ask, how many of you feel they're self-aware, which means that you're mindful of your feelings and your behaviors, and you know how they interact with the environment. And you'd be surprised how many people raise their hand. Some of them don't, which makes you be like, they're very open-minded to
Yeah.
know that you're not, because sometimes being a CEO, you know everything, right? You're supposed to. But I've been very fortunate that most CEOs that I meet are just hungry to learn more and to
Yeah.
become better. Because sometimes we're not aware how we come across. We
Yeah.
think we do, and we don't. And then you get feedback. One of the pieces of being self-aware is that you can happily accept feedback. And then the last piece of my class has to do with perception, about how customers, employees, people perceive things. I say this all the time. We live with the persistent illusion that we pick up everything around us, yet in fact we hardly pick up anything,
Yeah.
and our brain just like fills in the rest with what it interprets. And then after you perceive a situation, you build your perspective on the situation. So I explain how that all works, and how to really, sometimes when people think a certain way and you think that they're so out of whack, just put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Literally put yourself in their shoes. You might not necessarily agree with them, but the more you put yourself in their shoes, you'll have a better understanding of how and why they feel that way. So that's basically the gist of the class. It's deep. It's not top level. It's I associate everything with stories of Disney and stories of my family and our restaurant. So um, it's very touching. Some people say it's a little bit emotional, but some people laugh, some people cry. But yeah, so that's basically it.
Yeah, and you just touched on it there, and I was just opening up because there was something you posted fairly recently, and I think it relates so well to the insurance space, because sometimes I think we forget to put ourselves in our customer's shoes. And we notice this. Anybody will notice this that's been to the doctor a number of times, is that sometimes you feel like you're just a piece of paper that was shuffled across the desk, because
One
that's what
hundred
they deal
percent.
with all day. And I don't want to treat people like that. I don't want to be treated like that. But I think we need reminders in that way, to put ourselves in those shoes of, hey, maybe maybe someone just had a small accident. It's really kind of a minor deal, and we deal with it all the time, so it's not really that big a deal. But maybe this was their baby, this car that they had, and maybe it meant a lot, and they don't know what the steps are. So we have to show some empathy and walk them through and ask them if they're okay. That's the first thing we should be asking, is if they're okay in this minor accident, because people are shook up. But I wanted to read your comments, which you just touched on, which I think it resonated with me um, a lot. Open your mind and put yourself in their shoes to understand why they feel the way they do. You might not agree with them, but the more you put yourself in their shoes, you will have a better understanding of their perspective. And I think that nails it for what we work with on a day to day basis of our insurance customers. When they call us with a lot of our customers call us when something bad happens. And we need to show some empathy, and then offer that experience, like you say, that they're not going to find anywhere else. What's that? Maybe it's just one more phone call, a proactive phone call, or maybe one more suggestion that we can provide that they weren't aware of. It's not secondhand nature a lot of times for these people. So I think your message fits very, very well with what we handle on a day-to-day basis. So
Thank you very much. Yeah,
like I
it's
go ahead,
like
I'm
you're
sorry.
saying about the car, right? You don't know if they spent all the money that they have on that car, and that car brings them to their work and provides them with their living. So you might be like, well, why are you so upset about this? And but you have no idea why, because
Yeah.
you don't know their upbringings, you don't know their ideas, you don't know their communication styles, you don't know what they've gone through to get that. So just before being like, why do they think like that, just think for a second. They're
Yeah.
reacting like that for a reason. What's that reason?
Yeah. Um, so you also have a course coming out on leadership, and I know it's not all put together, but there's a lot of our business owners, agency owners talk about leadership. We are trying to every day become better leaders, and so that's something that interests me. Can you touch on maybe the concepts of that course that you
Sure.
have coming out?
Um, I started developing it from, again, everything that I've learned in my life, from my perspective. And as soon as I started getting going, the my "What Do You Sell" class really took off. So I'm not as far as I'd like to be, but one of the biggest messages that I have in there is that I talk about a manager and I talk about leaders, and I think we've all had managers in our life and we've all had leaders in our life. And what's the difference? What's the difference between a manager and a leader? A manager is in charge of a group of people to get to some type of objective. And a leader is someone that motivates, inspires us, and gets us thinking so we can contribute to the organization's success. Um, I feel like there's a saying out there that says, um, when I speak to a manager, I get the gist that they're important. When I speak to a leader, I get the
Mm.
gist that I'm important.
Wow, I
So
like that.
just that was, one big thing that I start off is, how do you motivate your people? Do you know them? Do you know about them? Do you know what makes them tick? Do you know what they're good at? Do you know what they're not good at? If you have 10 employees, and you get to really know them, you might find out that this person's better at this position than this position, and figure out what they're good at instead of, grading everybody the same way and just putting everybody just in whatever position it would be. So that's one really big thing that I think about, because a lot of leaders might judge everyone on their ability to run when some people are meant to swim, right? And you figure that out and put people in places. And when you have people in places that love what they do, watch out, because your company could excel on another level.
Yeah. We talk a lot about right people, right seats.
Right people, right seats. I love that. Right
Yeah.
people, right seats.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not mine. I won't take credit for it, but
No, that's great.
but that's yeah, and that's dead on. because sometimes you can have a great person and they're just in the wrong seat.
You're 100% correct. You're the right person. This is
Yeah.
awesome. This is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, um, being around people like yourself and all these leaders, like I feel very lucky. Go to these conferences and I speak on one subject, but yet I leave with like nuggets of knowledge, like what you were just saying, things like that. It's so great.
Yeah, touch on a little bit of your experience of the Producers in Paradise, because I know a number of people that were there in those events, and being around like-minded people, motivating people, driven people. I come away inspired. I come away fired up, and a lot of times you do learn. I know there was a a tremendous speaker lineup, but I generally this is I generally learn more from just the conversations. Um, by the pool, in the hallway, whatever it is, and I'm blown away by it. Tell me a little bit by what your experience was there.
So, I was very lucky to be invited to speak at, David Carruthers, Producers in Paradise in Key West, and just talking to all the individuals there, and just not necessarily even talking to them, just listening to them, listening on their perspective on how they view business, how they're open to new things. That we talked about, AI quite a bit, and is it good? Is it bad? And just listening to their perspectives on things. And will it take over? Will it not take over? Will it replace this? Will it not replace this? And then just listening to how some people think about it, and how to use it effectively, it blew my mind. And then just listening to them in general talk about any different subjects, anything just in general, that I just was like, my goodness, I'm like, I feel just lucky to be around these people. And these are some, big time commercial producers and
Yeah,
vice presidents and presidents of companies, and their mindsets were
yeah,
massive. Their mindsets were massive. So I was very, very lucky to be invited there.
yeah. Very innovative,
Yeah,
forward thinking,
so
and
forward thinking.
you don't you wouldn't expect it, right? I mean, when you think in I I think when most people think insurance, you're thinking, oh, we're going to be talking about liability and this and that. But when you get around these groups, and it blew my mind too, when I first started to network and go to these conferences, how innovative, intelligent, entrepreneurial, that so many people in our space are. It's um it's impressive.
It's
it's
really impressive.
it's really an impressive group of people. um So tell us a little bit about, so you're back to your speaking um, um, career here, that it's really in the last 3 months started to evolve and evolve quickly. And I know you have some big speaking gigs come up.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me what this experience has been like now that it's starting to take off.
It's taken off on a level that I can't keep up with at some point. It's been so humbling. It's been so, I didn't know that I had this effect with my class and or my message. And then when X amount of people kept telling me, and I was like, okay, I must have a message. And it's been, being on in October, I'm speaking for, 500 people um, in Texas for an organization called Insurance Soup.
Oh,
So I'm really excited that Taylor and Mike invited me to speak there. I met them at the Paradiso Mastermind, and these guys are just amazing. And they were like, "We
yeah,
need you to come there." And I was like, so the largest crowd that I've ever spoken for is about 120 or so. So this was 500. Um, and then I met another gentleman named Spencer right here out of Connecticut, and he introduced me to an organization that he's affiliated with, PRMA, and they hired me to keynote a conference in Chicago for 600 people. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And I was like, so it's just
Less than
I
a
mean,
year ago, you were asking to do, your
yeah, I was
your
asking some
spiel for
people.
free.
Yeah, and then but it's been really, really great. People have been, and I've gotten some great reviews and I've put them up so people can see them. I understand that some people didn't want to hire me because they had no idea. I
Yeah.
understand. And then but now I get their calls, be like, hey, listen, I see that you have, so let's bring you on. I'm like, sounds good. It's no longer free though. So
Yeah.
but but it's been really, really great, and it just continues growing. I have engagements into 2024. I have some tentative dates for
Wow.
2025. It's just real every single day, like something's just has happened. My social media has increased by 10% in the last 60 days. It's just been it's been wild. It's been fun. I've needed some help along the way, and like my wife and my brother have been like my team, um, uh, whether they want to or not. I was like, "Can you be my team?" Because I'm not good at certain things and I
Yeah.
need help. So my wife Erin and my brother Dimitri, they each have major jobs and big careers, but they've helped me so much with a lot of things that I've needed. So it's been great.
That was gonna be, my next question is how far away from are you from needing some help?
Um,
Needing assistant, needing a scheduler, that sort of thing. Uh,
I'm getting there. I'm getting to the point that I'm gonna need probably somebody to help me
yeah,
that's gonna probably have to wear many hats at the beginning.
yeah,
And then as I grow, then we can define their role. But for right now, it's my brother Dimitri, my wife Erin, and I. We're the team, and some days they'll come home and I'll be like, guess what? I need you to do this for me. Please, can you do this for me? And but I'm not sure how far away I am from really needing
yeah,
to hire someone because every day is different. I don't know what's going to happen when I speak for 500 people and then 600 people and then this and then that and
yeah,
then being on your podcast. I don't know
yeah,
who's going to be affected by that. Who's going to listen? That's going to say, "Oh, by the way, I know this person, and this person owns 10 businesses, and this person knows," and
yeah.
then it's just, so it's exciting. I'm excited to go down that path. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's exciting.
So, Rob Bowen is the person who introduced, said you have to connect with Christos.
Uh,
He was at the Paradiso event, and he said you were the uh, hands down. He said you were the best speaker that he saw,
wow.
and so it sounds like you're going to these other events, and like you said, reference the insurance soup, and they said you have to come and keynote, not speak, to keynote our event. And um so this might be a hard question, and maybe you don't have the answer, and that's okay, but why do you think you're having such an impact on these groups? I know you're humble, so but you are. And so I think, yeah, obviously your message resonates, but um I mean, people are signing you up really quickly and making a decision like, this is the guy, we need to have him speak at our group.
Um, I think from what I'm told, I teach about certain facts, right? Facts that I learned, from my family, from Disney, from everything that I've done, but I associate everything with a story, right? And a
Yeah.
story that people understand how that fact actually makes sense. And the stories are, I feel, powerful, and
Yes.
they help bring the message home. Because if I just told you, a fact on something, you could be like, okay, that's interesting, that's great. But then when I tell you that fact and I bring it and I make the theory into practicality and I tell you a story that I did something in or that the team that I was in did something in and the effect it had, I think it makes people go, "Whoa." It
Yeah.
makes them go, "Oh, okay, there was really big impact on it." So I think, using storytelling along with facts really makes makes an impact and brings it home, I think, I mean, I that's what I that's what I'm gonna get because this is what I'm being told.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It goes back to, even just talking about, what your family business did or does in your community proactively. And even you telling the story, if you just told a story that, and yeah, and sometimes we'll reach out if we know if one of our customers, lost a loved one, we'll send pizza. But when you actually discuss, that direct circumstance, that makes a difference. That's we're all more interested in a story, 100%. Um, Christos, if someone wants to get a hold of you, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can just go right on my website, and you can just fill out a form just on the bottom.
Okay.
And my website is just christosspeaks.com. Just my first name, which is Christos, and then speaks, speaks.com. And my email is info@christosspeaks.com as well. You can easily reach me both those ways.
Okay, fantastic. Christos, this has been great. I want to thank you
Thank you.
so much for taking the time with me today. I can't wait. Um, I can't wait to say, I knew him when. Um,
You're funny. You're funny.
so, really wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. And we'll see you next week.